It was Maya's birthday, and all she wanted, her one simple wish, was a trip to the amusement park. I wanted to make it special. I really did. So we got there, and just as I stepped toward the ticket booth, reaching into my back pocket, I noticed something strange. Clara, my wife, and Maya had already walked past me right through the gates, without even looking back. No hesitation, no pause to check if I was coming. Just gone, . And then, like she'd been waiting for the perfect moment, Clara's voice rang out, dripping with sarcasm loud enough to cut through the buzz of the crowd. I give you money every month, Leo. Can't you figure out how to budget? Look at you, can't even afford a single ticket. Her words hit harder than they should have, but before I could even react, Maya piled onto. Her voice, high and sharp, echoed her mother's with a chilling accuracy. Mom, you're way too nice to him. He doesn't even help around the house. He has no idea how hard you work. I blinked, my throat tightened. I pulled out my phone and checked my bank balance. $32. That's all. A mix of shame, anger, and something I couldn't name clenched inside me. My hands shook. I give them $1,500 a month to cover everything. Rent, groceries, bills. I thought I was helping, supporting, but somehow, in their eyes, I was the failure. Not a partner, not a father, just a joke. And the thing is, the day had already started on the wrong foot. I'd tried to make an effort that morning. Maya had been counting down to this trip for weeks, so I thought, just for one side, dress decently. I dug deep into my closet and pulled out a shirt I hadn't worn in years. It was tight now. I had to take deep breaths just to get the buttons closed over my stomach. But I wanted to look good, presentable, like a dad who still cared. Clara had watched me from the bed, that familiar smirk tugging at the corners of her mouth. Old man trying to look young, huh, she teased, then looked over at Maya with a laugh. Look at your dad, sweetie, trying to tame that beer belly for a fun day out. I clenched my jaw. I wanted to snap back, but I held it in. The truth. Clara barely did anything around the house anymore. After work, she'd plop down on the couch like royalty, leaving a trail of chaos behind her. And Maya, . Well, she was learning fast. Laundry on the floor, dishes left behind, mess everywhere like I was the only adult trying to keep it all from falling apart. So no, I didn't have the time or energy to worry about a six-pack. But just as I opened my mouth to finally say something, Maya jumped in. That's not true, she said. And for a moment, a single, fragile moment, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she saw it. Maybe all those late nights helping with homework, packing lunches, fixing her broken toys. Maybe they meant something to her after all. But then came the gut punch. Dad's belly looks like a giant watermelon, and it's all greasy and gross. I just stood there, frozen. My daughter, my little girl, said that out loud, like it was funny. My chest tightened, and my eyes burned. I didn't know what hurt more, her words, or the way she said them. Like I was someone to laugh at. Not her father. Not the man who gave up so much just to give her everything. Maya, I said, my voice barely steady. Who taught you to talk like that? How could you say that to your dad? For a second, just one, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Guilt, maybe. But then Clara swooped in, pulling Maya close behind her, shielding her like I was the threat. Oh, come on, Leo, she snapped. Are you seriously going to pick a fight with a child? And honestly, isn't it true? Look at yourself. In the hallway, like some teenager, a greasy middle-aged man ruining his daughter's birthday. And just like that, they were gone out the door, leaving me alone in the silence, fists clenched and knuckles white. I couldn't believe this was my life. This woman, this same woman who chased me for 2 years back in college, swearing she'd treat me like a king, now looked at me like I was a stain she couldn't scrub out. But even her cruelty couldn't compare to what Maya said. Because she's my daughter, my baby. And she saw me like that. Still, I didn't want to ruin her birthday. I didn't want to make a scene. I took a shaky breath, straightened my back, and followed them out. On the way to the park, they walked, hand in hand, a few steps ahead of me, talking and laughing like nothing had happened, like I wasn't even there. Their voices felt like static, just far enough to keep me out, but loud enough to remind me I didn't belong. When we arrived, they got in line at the entrance. Somehow, I ended up 5 or 6 people behind them. I watched as they scanned their e-tickets. Clara's phone. Of course, Anne slipped through the turnstiles with ease. Then it was my turn. I pulled out my phone. Still no message from Clara. No forwarded ticket. Nothing. Clara, I called out, heart pounding. She turned her head, saw me, and then turned away, grabbed Maya's hand and disappeared deeper into the park. I stood there, stunned. People behind me started muttering, shifting impatiently. I fumbled with my phone, trying to buy a ticket on my own, but that $32 balance stared back at me, taunting. My face burned. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, like I was holding up the world. And then, just when I thought I'd turn around and walk away, Clara came back. Not to help, to humiliate, she held out her phone and scanned a ticket for me, with the same expression you'd give a stray dog. I give you so much money every month, she said, loud and cutting, and you can't even save enough for a single ticket. You're just standing there holding everyone up. Then came the final blow. Leo, when are you going to grow up? And Maya, because of course she had to, added one more jab. Mom, you're too good to him. He doesn't even help around the house. They didn't even flinch. They just walked away, satisfied, leaving me standing there shaking, humiliated, on display like some broken-down man who'd lost control of his own life. And in that moment, something shifted inside me, because it was no longer just about one birthday. It was about years of being disrespected, dismissed, treated like I didn't matter. They had planned this. They wanted to break me, to make me the villain in a story I never asked to be part of. And standing there, surrounded by strangers, I realized something I should have seen long ago. This wasn't love. It never was. There I stood stuck in that line, the last to enter, watching the backs of my own wife and daughter vanish into the crowd. That was it. That was the moment I knew I was done. Done being humiliated. Done being invisible in my own family. Back home, I collapsed right there on the living room floor, shoulders shaking, hot tears spilling down my face. I didn't even try to stop them. I just sat there, surrounded by silence, wondering how my life had unraveled this far. How did I go from a respected, confident guy, back in college, the one people admired, to this hollow version of myself? A man left behind by the very people he gave everything to. And I knew the answer. Her name was Clara. She used to be sweet, charming. Back in college, she chased me, said she'd treat me like royalty. And after we got married, for a little while, she did. But things changed the second I made the biggest mistake of my life, quitting my job to take care of the family. She begged me to do it, said we'd be a team, that she couldn't handle it alone. But once I stepped into that role, once I gave up my title, my salary, my identity, Clara started looking at me differently, like I wasn't a man anymore, like I'd lost my worth. And after Maya was born, things only got worse. Clara's father was always conveniently too tired or too busy to help. Clara said her job was too demanding. So the late nights, the feedings, the diaper changes, all of it fell to me. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was being a good husband, a good dad. But somehow, I ended up trapped in a role that no one respected, least of all the woman who once promised me the world. I had a better job than her back then, higher pay, better prospects. But I gave it up because she asked me to. I sacrificed because I believed in our family. And in return, I got silence, disrespect, control. She stopped treating me like a partner. Started treating me like a housekeeper she could mock whenever she felt like it. She'd leave her mess everywhere, toss her heels on the table, kick her feet up while I made dinner. Maya would be crying in the next room, and Clara wouldn't even blink unless the crying got loud enough to mess with her TV show. Then I'd get yelled at like I wasn't already doing everything. And the money, she used that like a leash. If I ever dared to speak up, my allowance would vanish. Just like that. And that's what it was, an allowance. $1,500 a month to run the whole house. It was barely enough to scrape by, and if I ever needed something, for me, I'd have to cut corners somewhere else. And now that Maya was older, now that she didn't need diapers and lullabies, Clara and her father suddenly wanted credit. They spoiled her with gifts and gadgets, used money to win her over, like she was some prize to be bought. I tried to give her structure, no junk food, limited screen time, healthy routines, but behind my back, they undid it all. Gave her sweets, bought her electronics, laughed at my rules. And now Maya saw me the same way they did. Like I was just in the way. All those years, all those sacrifices, and what did I get? A daughter who looked at me with disgust, a wife who mocked me for sport, a home that felt more like a cage than a sanctuary. I stared at myself in the bathroom mirror, puffy eyes, flushed cheeks, red with humiliation, and something in me hardened. I clenched my fists. No more. They thought I was weak, worthless, but they were wrong. I didn't have a job. My resume was a 7-year gap of unpaid labor and forgotten value, but I still had eyes. I looked around the house and saw money everywhere. Designer bags, her luxury shoes, Maya's expensive gadgets and toys. They lived like royalty while I rationed shampoo. That's so I picked up my phone and started taking pictures. Every shiny, overpriced item. Then I posted them for sale. One by one, the anger kept me going. It fueled me. I was done begging. I even opened Clara's jewelry box where she kept the real gold and took a handful of pieces to a luxury pawn shop. I walked out with $30,000 in cash. $30,000. Just like that. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. And as I walked past a nearby hot pot restaurant, the rich smell of broth and spice stopped me in my tracks. My stomach growled, and that's when I realized I couldn't even remember the last time I'd treated myself to a decent meal. Everything I'd earned, everything I'd had, went to them. Always them. So I walked in, sat down, and I ordered what I wanted. The beef balls were tender and juicy. The mutton, sliced paper thin, cooked in seconds in the bubbling broth. Every bite felt like I was reclaiming a piece of myself. I ate slowly, proudly, like someone who finally remembered he deserved to enjoy things too. Then, I heard it. The birthday song. Wave goodbye to all your troubles. Say hi to all the joy. It was coming from a table nearby. I turned, curious. There she was, Maya, eyes shut tight, hands clasped, making a wish over a tiny cake. Clara sat to her left, and to her right. Mark. I recognized him. A younger guy I'd seen once in a photo from one of Clara's work events. He was smiling, making a peace sign behind Clara's head, like this was some happy family outing. And Maya, she looked so happy. Mark leaned in, gently pinching her cheek. What did you wish for, sweetheart? You looked so serious. And Maya, daughter, beamed. I wished for you to be my new daddy. Mark. I froze. The room tilted. Clara reached over and affectionately patted Maya's head. That smug, self-satisfied look I knew too well. Mark put a hand over his mouth, playing shocked. What about your old dad? And Maya, baby girl, puffed up her chest and said, plain as day. Grandpa says that old greasy guy is too fat and too old for Mom. They're going to ditch him soon. I couldn't breathe. I sat there in that restaurant, surrounded by strangers, watching my family build a new life right in front of me, without me, worse, against me. I thought about the time Maya got food poisoning from the ice cream Clara's dad gave her, and I was the one who stayed with her all night at the hospital. I thought about when she started choking on food while they were laughing, and I was the one who rushed in and saved her life. These weren't distant memories. These were recent. She knew. She was old enough to remember, and still, she chose them. And right then, sitting alone with a pot of broth and a breaking heart, I finally understood. Sometimes, the people you give everything to are the ones who never saw your worth in the first place. It ran deep, not just in their words, but in their bones. This family, this marriage was rotting from the inside out. And sitting there, staring at the last few bites of food on my plate, everything suddenly tasted like ash. I pushed it away, heart pounding, mind spinning. I walked out of the restaurant and straight into an electronics store. No hesitation, I knew what I needed: spy cameras, small ones, enough to see the truth I already knew in my gut. By the time I got back home, they were already there. Clara sprawled out on the couch like a queen on her throne, snack wrappers scattered like confetti around her, Maya glued to her tablet. The house was a wreck. Clara didn't even bother to look up. Oh, so some people still remember where home is, she muttered, voice soaked in smugness. Wasted one of my tickets. Huh, if you're so capable, why not stay gone for good? And something inside me snapped. A switch, flip-tot, violent, final. I slammed the door so hard the frames rattled. You wish I never came back, don't you? I shouted. That would make it easier. Wouldn't it easier to slide someone else into my place? The sound must have startled Maya, because she came charging into the room, brandishing a plastic doll like a weapon. You don't make any money, she screamed. Why are you yelling at Mom? I'll beat you. She started hitting me with the doll, over and over, and I just stood there, eyes closed, really trying to feel some trace of that old love I had for her. That soft, protective feeling, but it was gone. I opened my eyes and without thinking slapped her once. Then again, the room went dead silent. Maya stood frozen, too shocked to cry. Clara jumped up, fury twisting her face. You lunatic, you just hit a child, she screamed. She's right, you're nothing without me. You live off me. I grabbed the doll out of Maya's hand and hurled it at Clara's head. Say one more word, I warned, voice low, trembling with rage, and I swear, I'll tear that mouth off your face. The doll hit her square on the forehead. I didn't wait to see what happened next. I turned, walked straight into the bedroom, and locked the door. Behind it, I could hear the chaos erupting, Maya crying, Clara shrieking. But for the first time, in a long time, I felt calm. Then came the kicking. Clara pounding on the door, screaming threats through the wood. Forget this month's money, Leo. Let's see how long you can act tough without it. Her favorite weapon, money. She loved watching me squirm, loved delaying my allowance so she could watch me beg like a starving dog. And every time, it came with a sermon. I work so hard, why can't you be more frugal? I used to just sit there, taking it, nodding, staying silent, hoping she'd see me, hoping she'd understand, but she never did. Oh sure, she'd sneer, you have the hardest job in the world, huh, Mr. Stay-Home Hero, you don't need my money anyway, right? Like the bills didn't have my name on them too, like this house wasn't half mine, but I used to endure it for Maya's sake. Not anymore. The next morning, my internal clock still woke me up at the usual time. Years of routine. Breakfast at 6, get Maya ready, pack her lunch, drop her off. But this time, I didn't rush out of bed. I didn't reach for the frying pan. I just, lay there. For once, and when I finally got up, I didn't go to the kitchen. I went for a walk. The morning air was sharp, crisp, the streets were quiet. Birds chirped lazily from rooftops, and in that stillness, I realized how long it had been since I just existed. No chores, no yelling, no orders. Just me, breathing. And in that hour, outside, I felt more alive than I had in years. When I got back, I pushed the front door open and that tiny creak was all it took to wake the dragon. Clara came flying out of the spare room like a banshee, hair a tangled mess, eyes wild. "Damn it, Leo," she shouted. "Why didn't you wake me up?" She looked like a disaster, half-dressed, half asleep, and still nursing the faint bruise on her forehead from the doll I'd thrown. I almost laughed. "Don't you have hands?" I asked coolly. "Ever heard of an alarm clock?" Her jaw clenched. She was running out of time, and she knew it. She stomped into the master bedroom, tearing through drawers. "The boss is coming today," she hissed. "If I'm late, you're dead." I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching the show. "It's not in the closet," I said calmly, as she frantically flung clothes across the bed. Then her eyes landed on the couch to wrinkled uniforms, crumpled like garbage. She whipped around, finger trembling, rage bubbling. "You didn't wash them. You didn't iron them. You know I have to wear a uniform today. Leo, you're done for." I flicked her hand away like it was dust. "You want a free maid but can't spare a dime. Dream on," I shrugged. "You should probably decide what's worse, going to work without your uniform, or showing up in one that smells like 3-day-old curry." Clara's face turned crimson. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Even sleepy Maya had been dragged into the mess now, rubbing her eyes as she stepped into the hallway, grumpy and confused. "Dad," she whined, "why are you fighting with Mom again? I'm the flag bearer at school today. Hurry up and make breakfast and drive me there." In the past, I would have dropped everything, cooked her something special, made sure her socks matched, packed an extra snack, and driven like a man on a mission. But now, I just stared at her, cold, empty. "Go eat dirt," I muttered. "If you want to get to school, ask your mom to take you." Her eyes went wide like she couldn't believe what she'd just heard. For once, she looked to her mother for help, but Clara was still in meltdown mode, flipping cushions, still hunting for her precious uniform. And in that chaos, I didn't lift a finger. Clara didn't even look up as Maya begged her not to go, too busy trying to air out her musty uniform with a tiny handheld fan. She was late, panicked, and Maya, she was just in the way. I had no job to tie me down, so I left again. On my way downstairs, I called Maya's teacher. My voice was calm. "From now on, please contact her mother for everything school-related. Here's her number." I paused. "Also, Maya is going to be late today. You might want to pick a different flag bearer." Because deep down, I knew Clara wouldn't show up. Not for Maya, not when it meant sacrificing her own convenience. Still, I couldn't let the moment be completely ruined for my daughter. So I waited, sipping a quiet cup of coffee in a nearby cafe while watching the live camera feed I'd set up at home. On screen, Clara rushed around getting ready. Maya clung to her leg, crying desperately. Clara tried calling me. She didn't. No, I'd already blocked her. With a growl of frustration, she shoved Maya aside and slammed the front door. "I've got important things to do. I'll be back later," she barked. "But if I'm late, I won't get to raise the flag." Maya whimpered, "Blame your greasy dad." Clara snapped, "He's the one who's supposed to care so much about your school. Let him take you." The door slammed. Maya was left alone, sobbing. I took another sip of coffee, lips curling slightly. What a mother. I didn't go back that day. I had other plans. Renting my own place. For one, Clara's father, her. The whole circus, none of it surprised me anymore. The cracks had been forming long before Maya's birthday. I'd been applying for jobs, but 7 years of parenting had made my resume invisible. So I pivoted. I'd always been good with my hands. In college, I made leather crafts. After Maya was born, I made her shoes, toys, school projects, anything to give her childhood a bit of magic. I used to post my work in parenting groups, and people always admired it. Those compliments became the only bright spots in my day. So, I posted again, this time, offering custom orders. And people responded. Slowly but surely, something was shifting. That morning, I toured a few apartments. Every now and then, I checked the camera feed. Maya wandered the kitchen, clearly hungry, but the cabinets were bare. I didn't flinch. A day of hunger wouldn't kill her. I wasn't watching out of concern. I was watching to make sure she wasn't in danger. That was it. By evening, I'd signed the lease and had a good dinner. I returned to the house feeling strangely satisfied. But when I tried to open the door, it was locked from the inside. Curious, I checked the camera. There they were, Maya and her father waiting like some kind of ambush party. I turned around, ready to walk away. But that startled Clara's father. He unbolted the door and barked after me. "Leo, where are you going?" "Off to meet your mistress." I turned and looked him straight in the eye. I used to respect that man. I really did. "Didn't you just lock me out?" I replied coolly. "What's going on in there that you don't want me to see?" "Something wild." I narrowed my eyes. "Careful, old man. At your age, those fantasies might just finish you off." He clutched his chest like I'd shot him. Clara rushed to him, shrieking, "If something happens to my dad because of you, I swear, I'll divorce you this minute." I almost laughed. Empty threats. I had real business to handle. I needed to ship the first order of my new craft business. So I stepped inside. And just like that, the old man bounced back. full of life, full of orders. Do you even deserve to be a father? He barked. Your daughter was starving all day. Go cook, and don't even think about eating. This house is a pigsty, clean it too. Maya peeked out from behind him, tiny foot raised like she might try to kick me. I gave her a look, just one. The memory of the night before and her growling stomach did the rest. She froze. Then I turned back to her grandfather and smiled. Held out my hand. Pay up, I said. A live-in housekeeper charges at least $1,000 a month. Groceries not included. Clara lost it. You're insane. $1,000 for doing a few chores. Even her father joined in, sputtering. You married my daughter to support her. What kind of man demands money for housework? I calmly cleaned out my ear with my pinky and replied, I already ate. I'm good. You three can deal with the mess yourselves. I'm not lifting a finger. I walked back to my room, calm and steady, and locked the door behind me. Not long after, I heard the familiar rustling of handbags and keys outside. Then Clara's voice rang out, sharp and smug. Dad, honey, I'm taking you out to eat. Let's see how long Mr. Tough Guy keeps this up when he's broke. And just like that, it all clicked. Their power over me came down to two things, guilt and money. Guilt they'd carved into me over the years, and money they thought I couldn't live without. But they didn't know I'd already let both go. While they were out, I packed the orders I'd just sold. Leather crafts made with care, with purpose, and dropped them off for delivery. A couple thousand earned in a day. And a hell of a lot of pride. Right on cue, the moving van pulled up outside. I left a short note on the kitchen counter. Took the things that mattered, my workbench, the appliances I'd paid for, my tools, my piece, and moved into my new rental. Did they really think they could keep me in that house forever? That I'd keep bowing to their drama? I could almost picture their faces when they got home. Full bellies, smug smiles, only to find half the house stripped bare. And apparently, that's exactly what happened. My father-in-law collapsed onto the floor, clutching his chest and moaning about his misfortune like he hadn't spent the past year poisoning the air in that home. Clara, as expected, called me in a rage. You've crossed the line. Leo, you dared to move our stuff. Bring it back right now. I answered, calm as ever. No. And just like that, the threats poured in. The insults, the jabs, where she knew they'd land. Who's going to want you now? Leo, a jobless man in his 30s, with a kid. Do you think anyone's going to look at you? She wanted to tear me down, corner me, crush my confidence. But I wasn't the same man anymore. I laughed. You really think I'm undesirable? I'm 6 feet tall, 180 pounds, maybe a little soft around the edges, but greasy. That's projection, Clara. Then I twisted the knife. Funny how you had nothing to say when your dad was blaming me for our infertility, but I went through hell to help you have Maya. You should be thanking me every single day, not spitting on me. And that's when it slipped. Clara said something she didn't mean to, something about recovering, and then suddenly cut herself off. I pressed, what, Clara? What did you mean by that? Is Mark finally stepping up? That name Mark hung in the air, like smoke from a fire that had been burning quietly for months. I already knew. I'd seen the signs. Maya didn't catch the conversation, but she felt the tension. She snatched the phone from her mom and shouted into it. Dad's a thief. He stole the couch, the fridge, the washing machine, and the air conditioner. I'm calling the police. I chuckled. Sweetheart, maybe ask your mom, who paid for all that stuff before you dial 911. Everything I took was mine. Premarital property. Maybe your mom should explain that part to you. Then I ended it. Cold, final. I agreed to the divorce. I'll send the papers soon. And I hung up. The real blow wasn't the missing furniture, it was the missing essentials. No Wi-Fi, no soap, no toilet paper. You can live without love, but you can't live without basics. Especially after a heavy meal. They cracked. Eventually, they packed their bags and checked into a hotel. The next morning, I was in my new place, setting up my space. Calm, quiet, and through the camera feed, I watched my father-in-law lumber into the old house, arms full of groceries. He was fuming. Dialing Clara. I took Maya to preschool. I bought stuff. I'm exhausted. Get that boy back here now. When she told him I wasn't answering, he snapped. You ungrateful daughter. I raised you, and now in my old age, I have to do this. Clara said something that made him pause. Smile. Even whatever it was, it worked. He agreed to clean the house and prep for dinner. And that's when I realized Mark was finally coming over. They weren't even hiding it anymore. They thought they were winning, that they could replace me and move on. But really, they were just handing me everything I needed. All the evidence, all the truth, all the betrayal, on a silver platter. I stopped watching, closed the app, turned to my leather bench and started stitching. Each wallet, each cut, each thread, it was like therapy. For the first time in years, I wasn't drowning. I was building. By the time the sky turned dusky, I'd finished 2 wallets, eaten a quiet lunch, and felt a strange kind of peace. I checked the feed again. Clara and her whole circus were sitting at the dinner table, and there was Mark, smiling, charming, eating like he belonged there. My father-in-law, the man who never so much as rinsed a plate, was piling food onto Mark's plate like he was some royal guest. Maya clung to Mark's arm and giggled. "You're so handsome. Mark, I really like you. Not like that greasy man who used to live here. He's fat, ugly, and scary. You should marry Mom instead." That night, the dinner table wasn't about food, it was a performance, a public execution of my character. Every flaw they could invent, every insult they could throw, all served up to justify what they were doing. But I didn't flinch. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just watched, cold, focused, detached, because now, they weren't my family. They were just data on a screen. Background noise, and I was already writing the next chapter. Mark leaned in for a kiss. Already, too comfortable in someone else's home. But then he paused, frowning. "Wait," he said, pulling back slightly. "Why does this place look empty? No TV, no furniture, nothing." Clara, ever the actress, didn't miss a beat. She slipped her arms around him, voice sweet-like. "Syrup, oh, that greasy man threw a tantrum. I told him off, and he took all the junk he claimed was his. Who cares? We're finally free now, and when we get married, we can redecorate everything to your taste. Doesn't that sound nice?" She made it sound like some fresh romantic beginning. Just like she once sweet-talked me into paying for the renovations when we first bought this place back then, I believed every word. But Mark wasn't as naive. He didn't even flinch, just pulled out his phone and waved it in her face. "If you want me involved in renovations," he said, "all business now. You're sending me a transfer first. A luxury remodel starts at 30 grand. Clara laughed, nervously, and brushed the phone away. "We've got time for all that later. Let's just enjoy ourselves before the others get back." Then, hand in hand, they disappeared into the master bedroom. I watched the whole thing from my screen, face expressionless as I hit record. I saved the video. I didn't even flinch anymore. I'd already done my crying. Now, all I could do was laugh at what Clara's future looked like. A freeloading boyfriend and a washed-up father, circling the drain. Meanwhile, my world had started turning again. My leather orders were getting rave reviews. Clients were tagging me online, leaving heartfelt comments. Some even suggested new ideas: motorcycle bags, vintage postman styles, things I'd never thought to make. I started filming my work: slow, satisfying cuts of leather, the pull of a needle, the smooth burnish of polish. I learned to edit, to tell stories with my hands. And just like that, my days began to take shape. I woke up early, worked out for an hour, ate clean. Then it was crafting time, camera rolling, ideas flowing. Evenings were for quiet editing and posting. My social media wasn't blowing up, but the orders kept coming. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't hungry. And I didn't need anyone's approval to feel whole. Then came the day I printed the divorce papers. The evidence folder was thick: photos, receipts, videos. I threw on a decent coat and walked back into the house I used to call home. The stench hit me first. Rotting food, dirty laundry, something vaguely moldy. The home I once kept clean with care had turned into a dump. Clara had invited Mark over. Like clockwork, my father-in-law had put on a good act for about a week, pretending to clean, pretending to care before he gave up and crawled back into bed for good. And Mark, he bailed, said something about needing to take care of his pregnant ex, Sarah, then vanished. Never came back. No calls. No explanations. Without him, the place crumbled. Dirty clothes stacked in corners. Takeout containers left in the sink. The floor hadn't seen a mop in weeks. Maya couldn't even find her Legos or her tablet. But she probably just assumed it was part of her own mess. My father-in-law started sleeping till noon. Maya was late for school every day. Clara didn't cook anymore, just waited for the next delivery guy to show up. Maya was thrilled. Junk food, no rules, no homework, no bedtime. Clara thought about hiring a maid once. Then she saw the rates and decided her dad would make do. When I walked in, all three of them glared at me like I was the intruder. My father-in-law sneered first. "I thought you died out there. What a disappointment." I smiled coldly. "They say cockroaches outlive us all. You'll probably see the end of the world." Clara snapped. "Why do you have to come in here acting like a jerk?" She grabbed a slipper and came at me like she always did, loud, dramatic. I calmly pulled out a small can of pepper spray from my pocket. She froze mid-step. Only then did I speak. "There's no point trying to reason with wild animals. You don't understand human language. But fine, if you want to talk, let's talk." I tossed a folder on the coffee table. "Here's the divorce agreement. Clara, I'm only asking for 90% of your savings. You can keep the house. It was yours. Before the marriage, anyway." As soon as I mentioned money, her father clutched his chest like he was on a soap opera. "You gold-digging snake," he gasped. "My daughter gave you everything: 8 years of her life, a roof over your head, a house, and this is how you repay her. You're the worst mistake she ever made." Clara had enough. "What's your problem, Leo? I've been holding this family together, not you. And you dare talk to me about divorce and money?" I didn't even blink. I reached into my coat and slammed a thick packet of photo prints against her chest. Here's why, I said. I worked like hell for this family, and you never saw it. But maybe you can see these, and if you can't, I'll gladly send copies to your entire company. Her eyes flicked over the photos, intimate, incriminating. I went on. Remember that event you embarrassed yourself at, wearing that ratty outfit? Your boss wasn't pleased. Then you started missing deadlines, sneaking off for phone calls with your dad and Maya's school. You remember the public warning they gave you, right? Imagine what they'll do when they see this. Think you and Mark will still have your jobs. Clara's face drained of color. She looked like a person slowly realizing the walls were closing in. You set me up. Before she could process it all, her father snatched the papers from her hand and started tearing them apart. Look, sweetie, he said proudly, I destroyed the evidence. You don't have to be scared of this man. I raised an eyebrow, amused. You think that was the only copy? I've got 1,000 more, 10,000 even. Tear them up all day if you want. He clutched his chest, again, groaning like an old actor. If I die because of this, it's all on you. I'll be responsible. Fine, I said, shrugging like it was nothing. When you die, I'll make sure to scatter your ashes into the nastiest ditch I can find. Then I turned to Clara.com, as ever. So, once you sign, you'll be free to live your fairy tale life with your Prince Charming. Isn't that just perfect? She scoffed, rolling her eyes with that same bitter smirk. Do you think I'm scared of your little threats? I could get a new job tomorrow if I wanted. And so what if I cheated? Women don't get judged for that anymore. I didn't flinch. I just smiled, pulled out my phone, and pressed play. The color drained from her face as the video rolled her and Mark, caught in a moment that left no room for excuses. I didn't even need to say a word. What if, I said softly, people saw what you're really like behind closed doors? What if they found out you're not just a cheater, but completely lifeless in bed? It's still not a big deal. Clara's teeth clenched. This is illegal. Recording me, that's illegal. I raised an eyebrow. Don't worry, I'll blur your face. No one will know it's you. But they'll wonder, and rumors, they spread faster than truth. Clara lost it. She tore through the living room in a fury, kicking furniture, yanking at her own hair, lashing out at the air like a wild animal backed into a corner. Her father and Maya stood frozen, watching in stunned silence. I didn't move, I just waited. Eventually, when she realized her tantrum had no effect, Clara collapsed into the couch, defeated. She agreed to sign the divorce papers on one condition. I had to promise, in writing, to delete every shred of evidence. And then, just as she was about to pick up the pen, her father chimed in with a smirk. You can divorce her, fine, but our precious Maya is coming with us. That's when Maya fell to the floor in a full-blown meltdown. No, I don't want to go with that greasy old man. I want to stay with Mom and Grandpa and Mark. I looked at her for the first time. That day really looked, and then I said it, quietly, but clearly. Don't worry, Maya, I was never going to fight for you. Because you're not worth it. She blinked in shock, mouth hanging open, trying to understand what I meant. But I didn't explain. I didn't need to do. The girl I once loved like my own daughter was a stranger now. Whatever happened in her life from this point forward, she'd walk that road without me. Clara finally signed the papers after I pushed her a little more, and just like that, I was free. And then, like the universe had been waiting for me to let go, things began to shift. When I got back to my apartment, my phone was blowing up. My custom leather jacket had been featured in a viral video by a popular motorcycle influencer. Orders poured in. I couldn't keep up. My life transformed overnight. I made a schedule. Mornings were for workouts and editing videos. From noon to night, I live-streamed my leather work. My hands, my craft, it was oddly therapeutic for people to watch. They started sending virtual gifts. I began recommending the tools I used, and even that affiliate income surpassed Clara's old paycheck. A month passed, and it was time to finalize the divorce. I showed up in a crisp suit, hair slicked back, wearing my best leather shoes. I didn't just look different, Ty was different. Clara arrived with Sarah S., Mark's pregnant ex-and, a smug-looking Maya by her side. But when they saw me, they froze. Is that the greasy old man? Maya whispered. Why does he look so good now? Clara's eyes narrowed, her lips curled in jealousy. He probably found some sugar, mommy, she snapped. He's disgusting. Then she turned to me and hissed. Is that what you've been doing, Leo? Selling yourself for cash. After all I did for you, kept you safe, let you stay home without working, and this is how you repay me. Without warning, I slapped her, not out of anger, but clarity. A clean, loud slap. You see the worst in everyone because that's all you've ever known. Not everyone cheats. Clara, you tossed pocket change at me every month and expected me to play housemaid, but I'm worth more. I've always been worth more, and today, if you or your precious fiancés try to drag my name through the mud, you'll regret it, so let's sign the papers. We wouldn't want to delay your baby's birth registration, would we? She stood there, stunned, eyes wide. She didn't speak another word, just signed where she was told. And me, I didn't look back. I used my share of the settlement to buy a small house from an artist who was moving abroad. The place had charm, warmth, character, everything my old life lacked. I even adopted a clingy little orange cat who insisted on curling up in my lap while I worked. For the next 6 months, I learned how to love myself again, took fitness classes, started a skincare routine, felt stronger, lighter, freer than I ever had even before marriage. But peace doesn't last forever. One afternoon, the phone rang. It was Maya, crying. She said she missed me. Asked to meet. I was heading out to get the cat groomed, so we agreed to meet at a nearby KFC. But when I walked in, Maya wasn't alone. My ex-father-in-law sat next to her. Neither of them recognized me at first. Not until I placed the cat carrier on the table and took a seat. That's when Maya's eyes widened. Recognition hit her like a wave. And everything began. Again, Maya's eyes widened the moment I sat down. She looked nervous, almost guilty, and before I could even ask what this was about, I said it flat out. All right, what's going on? She couldn't look at me. Her eyes stayed glued to the table. But her grandfather, he was already fuming. You really nailed the dad role, huh? He snapped, voice dripping with sarcasm. Ignoring your own daughter, dressing up like some hotshot, carrying around a designer bag for a cat. What kind of man treats an animal better than his own flesh and blood? Do you even treat your dead parents this well? There it was. Venom, pure and bitter. Maybe it stung more, because deep down, he knew he couldn't mooch off me anymore. I stayed calm. I'm divorced from Clara, I said flatly. I pay child support on time. What I do with my money is none of your concern. And if you're curious about how I treated my parents, I looked him dead in the eye. ... You can ask them yourself. That shut him up. I turned back to Maya. If there's nothing else, I said, already standing, I'll be going. But just as I turned, she reached out and grabbed my sleeve. I waited. Her hand trembled slightly. Her lips parted, but the words wouldn't come. Just as I was about to walk away, she whispered, Mark wants to send me and Grandpa back to the countryside. He says the house is too crowded. Her voice cracked. She was on the verge of tears. I didn't flinch. Oh, I said. Then maybe you should go. 6 people in one house. That's tight. You and Grandpa were the ones who liked Mark so much. Remember, I'm sure you'll be happy to make some room for his new family. That hit her like a slap. She wasn't expecting that. Not from me. Not after everything. The old man snapped. Even a tiger doesn't abandon its own cubs. And, you are heartless, that's your daughter. But I knew better. He didn't care about her. He was terrified of being stuck alone. Raising the little princess without the cushion of Clara's money, I crossed my arms and tilted my head. I'm divorced, not dead. Clara has custody. Why don't you go ask her for help? He blinked, confused. Clara never told you, did she? I continued, my voice quiet but cutting. She had fertility issues. It was me. I went through all the hospital visits, all the rounds of IVF, just to bring Maya into the world. He stared at me, the blood draining from his face. So if you want to talk about responsibility, I said, turning to Maya, go talk to your mother. I've already done more than enough. Then, with a cold glance at her, I added, if I had known she'd turn out like this, I would have saved the money and cooked myself a pork chop instead. Her face went pale, but I didn't stay to watch it crumble. The old man finally snapped out of it, cursed under his breath, grabbed Maya by the arm, and stormed out. Not long after, the whole house of cards collapsed. I had once accidentally caught a glimpse of Sarah Mark's so-called ex sneaking into a hotel with a younger man. I'd even seen him go with her to a prenatal appointment. I hadn't thought much of it at the time, but it all exploded on a local news site. Clara's father, now consumed with suspicion, had secretly ordered a paternity test on Clara and Mark's baby. The results, not Mark's. Chaos followed. Clara, desperate to cover up the scandal, tried to hurt the baby. Sarah fought back and walked away with a scar across her face. When the baby's real father found out what was happening, he disappeared, without a trace. Sarah, now alone and enraged, went to the authorities. She spilled everything: Clara's affairs, the embezzlement at her firm. The fallout was swift. Clara was banned from working in the industry. Most of her assets were already split with me in the divorce, and now she was being sued for damages and staring down a possible prison sentence. The house, mortgaged, gone. The old man, with no one left to lean on, quietly took Maya back to the countryside. No protests this time. Before they left, I raised Maya's monthly support by $1,500, not because I had to, but because that was the last kind thing I'd ever do for them. And just like that, the chapter closed. They would go their way and I would finally go mine.